All those stories we're tracking here on Newsline. But first, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has in fact inaugurated the vibrant Gujarat summit. Visuals coming in on your screens at this point in time, where global CEOs, Indian CEOs, industrialists are all speaking at the inaugural ceremony.
स्टील किसी भी राष्ट्र के आत्मनिर्भरता में एक बड़ी भूमिका निभाता है, क्योंकि ये इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट, अर्बनाइजेशन, रिन्यूएबल सेक्टर्स, ऑटोमोटिव इंडस्ट्री, इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स, डिफेंस, रेलवेज आदि में बहुत उपयोग होता है। ग्लोबल टेक्नोलॉजी को सर्वोत्तम रूप से लाकर हम हाई एंड प्रोडक्ट्स को डेवलप कर रहे हैं, जो एसएमई से स्टार्टअप तक के स्टील कंज्यूमर्स को कम्पिटिटिव बनाने में मदद कर रहा है। गुजरात ने आज से 4 साल पहले आर्सलरमित्तल निपन स्टील इंडिया का स्वागत किया था और 2021 में प्रधानमंत्री जी ने और मुख्यमंत्री ने हमारे हजीरा एक्सपेंशन प्रोजेक्ट की भूमि पूजन की थी। मुझे ये बताते हुए गर्व हो रहा है कि ये एक्सपेंशन प्रोजेक्ट तेजी से बढ़ रहा है और लक्ष्य के अनुसार इसका फेज 1 2026 में पूरा हो जाएगा। आज वाइब्रेंट गुजरात 2024 के इस मौके पर हमने सेकंड फेज के लिए MOU साइन किए हैं। जब ये प्रोजेक्ट 2029 में पूरा होगा तो 24 मिलियन टन क्रूड स्टील प्रोडक्शन की क्षमता के साथ आर्सलरमित्तल निपन स्टील इंडिया का हजीरा साइट विश्व के सबसे बड़े सिंगल लोकेशन इंटीग्रेटेड स्टील प्लांट में से एक बन जाएगा।
Of course, Lakshmi Mittal speaking at the inaugural summit of the vibrant Gujarat that kickstarts today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in fact addressed the audience there. Kartik Malhotra joining us here in the studio. Kartik, it is a mega investors event in Gujarat, started in 2003 in fact by the Prime Minister, who was then the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Since then the tradition has continued. This is the 10th edition. A lot of global CEOs expected to come today to pledge some investments or the other.
In fact, a lot of those CEOs are visible already, some of them talking on stage. Lakshmi Mittal live right now talking on stage, talking about the importance of steel in India's ambitions and his own ambitions with ArcelorMittal. But I think what is important to note, Shweta, is that multiple of these state summits happen. But Vibrant Gujarat has pretty much set the template for all these state summits, state investment summits. This is where it started. And if you remember back in 2015, there was as much as 24,000 crore rupees worth of MOUs that were signed, and 24,000 numbers of MOUs signed. And in 2017, that number went up to about 27,000 or so. Now, interestingly, Gujarat is one of the states in which, in 2017, as much as 70% of those MOUs actually translated to real business, actually translated to real investments. So, I think this time around also the endeavor of the government should be, the state government as well as the center government should be to not just sign these multiple MOUs, but make sure that these MOUs don't face any bureaucratic hurdles and eventually do translate to investments.
All right. So, not just paper tiger, but perhaps actual FDI, actual money that should come into Gujarat and come into India for that matter. And the money that's been pledged so far, let's quickly take a minute to talk about Paytm's investment. Paytm has pledged a certain amount of money that they want to invest, about 100 crore rupees in the gift city to build a financial ecosystem. Singapore has also joined the line, and these are some of the first early announcements that have come in even before the summit kick-started.
You're right, Shweta, and I think Gujarat has pretty much set this template right now in the country, where if you look at what has happened in the last few months alone, you've got the gift city, which is an alternative to any financial hub anywhere in the world, right? So Singapore and Hong Kong in the Asian context are known as big financial hubs. Gift City is fast emerging as a real competitor to both Hong Kong as well as Singapore. Add to that the Diamond Bourse, which is the first of its kind anywhere in the world and the largest office complex in the world, is obviously again one initiative taken by the Gujarat state government to ensure that there is some sort of an exchange when it comes to gems and jewelry as well. So that becomes a second financial institution. as well as the world's largest office complex, which is coming up. So at one level, of course, we are talking about foreign direct investment. At the other end, you're also talking about domestic investments coming in, and that is the example of Paytm that you've just mentioned. So 100 crore rupees being pledged by Paytm in Gift City is straight away domestic capital flowing into the state. Now, of course, today's gathering over the next 2 days, right up till the 12th of Jan, is going to be inundated with business leaders, not just global, but also those from India. So you've got Mukesh Ambani in attendance, you've got Gautam Adani, we've just seen ArcelorMittal's Lakshmi Narayan Mittal. We've also got in audience multiple state presidents and prime ministers, global CEOs like Sanjay Malhotra of Micron. Micron is one of the early investors in the semiconductor space in India, breaking ground last year itself in the state of Gujarat. So you've got Sanjay Malhotra there. You've got Maruti Suzuki, the parent's global chairman, in attendance. So you know, it's a complete gathering with everybody from the world of financial institutions to semiconductors to automobiles, you know, to port developers. You've got the CEO of Maersk, and shipping, of course, as we know, is a very, very pertinent burning issue right now with what is happening in the Red Sea. So overall, I think the timing of the summit is great. The number of MOUs that are likely to be signed are sure to make headlines. I think the number of investments that will flow as a percentage of those MOUs is something that we need to wait and watch for, and be cognizant of the fact that not all the MOUs are actually going to translate into business, but any success rate over 70-75% is obviously good for the state of Gujarat and good for overall investments coming into India.
Absolutely, and some of those leaders who are in India have in fact spoken to the media. Let's quickly listen into what they had to say.
As you well know, and as we have publicly said before, that Micron is going to be investing over the course of a few years. The total cost of the project will be 2.75 billion here, and with Micron's investment of about 800 million, and the rest coming from the support from the central and the state government. So, of course, Micron is fully vested here in Gujarat with our manufacturing plans. And Micron also has a large R&D center in Hyderabad, more than 3,500 excellent engineers, one of the great places to work in the country. And our manufacturing plant here in Gujarat will be a very important part of Micron's well-diversified global manufacturing infrastructure. So it will be one of the pieces of well-diversified infrastructure that Micron has built over the years across the world.
We wholeheartedly agree with the fact that there is a big need to invest further in infrastructure in India, in the port sector and in logistics. We also think that the decarbonization and especially the green hydrogen is really important for the future of both logistics and the country, and we think India can play an outsized role in that. And then finally, we really think there is a big need to upskill the many young and smart Indians to become even better logisticians and port operators. So for us, it's really about infrastructure investment, it's about the decarbonization, but really through green methanol, through green hydrogen, and then it's upskilling of people.
All right. In fact, along the sidelines and before the summit even kick-started, there were MOUs signed, and one of the biggest newsmaker is, of course, the UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Kartik, who is in India. He is, in fact, here, and he's spoken at the inaugural session of the global, Gujarat Vibrant Summit. 4 MOUs were signed. Those MOUs are in the sectors that will be a focus between India and UAE, would include hospitality, hospital, food parks, and renewable energy, of course, and those would be the key sectors that India and UAE will be looking at to sign partnership deals in.
So, I think UAE is obviously a very, very prominent partner to India right now, Shweta, and this comes on account of course, the fact that this is pretty much the 4th meeting between Prime Minister Modi and UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in the last last 7 months. And why is UAE becoming that much more prominent right now? Because UAE is among the most friendly nations in the Far East, or
Absolutely.
in the Middle East
Absolutely.
for India, and it becomes the passage for India's entry into Europe and US, and that is going to come to light hopefully someday by way of the IMEC as well.
And let's talk about that in just a bit. We have Mukesh Ambani also addressing the inaugural session there. Let's actually dip into and listen in as to what he's saying at the moment.
No other summit of this kind has continued for 20 long years and going from strength to strength. This is a tribute to our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Bhai Modi's vision and consistency. I have been one of the fortunate few to have participated in every single edition of Vibrant Gujarat. I have come from the city of the gateway of India to the gateway of modern India's growth, Gujarat. I am a proud Gujarati. Mane Gujarati hovanu abhiman છે. When foreigners think of new India, they think of a new Gujarat, Navu Gujarat. How did this transformation happen? Because of one leader, our beloved leader who has emerged as the greatest global leader of our times. And he is Shri Narendra Bhai Modi, the most successful Prime Minister in India's history. About Narendra Bhai, when you speak, the whole world not only listens but applauds you. My friends abroad ask me, what is the meaning of slogan that millions of Indians are chanting, that Modi hai to mumkin hai. I tell them,
All right, it appears Prime Minister is back to attend the inaugural session. He was with the UAE
most
President
respected
Mohammed bin Zayed
Shri
Al
Narendra
Nahyan,
Bhai Modi ji.
and he's come back to attend that session.
When
now.
you speak, the whole world not only listens, but applauds you. My friends abroad ask me, what is the meaning of the slogan, millions of Indians are chanting, Modi hai to mumkin hai. I tell them, it means India's Prime Minister makes the impossible possible with his vision, determination, and execution. They agree, and they also say, Modi hai to mumkin hai. My esteemed friends, I will never forget what my father, Dhirubhai Ambani, used to tell me in my childhood. Gujarat is your Matrubhumi, and Gujarat should always remain your Karm Bhumi. Today, let me declare yet again, Reliance was, is, and will always remain a Gujarati company. Each of Reliance's business is striving to fulfill the dreams of my 7 crore fellow Gujaratis. Reliance has invested over $150 billion, that is 12 lakh crores, in creating world-class assets and capacities across India in the last 10 years. Of this, more than 1/3 has been invested in Gujarat alone. Honorable Chief Minister Shri Bhupendra Bhai Patel ji, today I would like to make 5 commitments to the people of Gujarat. First, Reliance will continue to play a leading role in Gujarat's growth story with significant investments in the next 10 years. Specifically, Reliance will contribute to making Gujarat a global leader in green growth. We will help Gujarat target to meet half of its energy need through renewable energy by the year 2030. For this, we have started building the Dhirubhai Ambani Green Energy Giga Complex, over 5,000 acres in Jamnagar. This will generate a large number of green jobs and enable production of green products and materials, and will make Gujarat a leading exporter of green products. And we are ready to commission this in the second half of 2024 itself. Second, Reliance Jio completed the fastest rollout of 5G infrastructure anywhere in the world. Today, Gujarat is fully 5G enabled, something that most of the world does not yet have. This will make Gujarat a global leader in digital data platforms and AI adoption. 5G enabled AI revolution will make Gujarat's economy more productive, more efficient, and more globally competitive. Besides generating millions of new employment opportunities, it will produce AI-enabled doctors, AI-enabled teachers, and AI-enabled farming, which will revolutionize healthcare, education, and agricultural productivity in the state of Gujarat. This will benefit every Gujarati in urban as well as rural areas, since to my mind, AI also means an all-inclusive growth. Third, Reliance Retail will further accelerate its mission to bring quality products to consumers and simultaneously empower lakhs of kisans and small merchants. Our retail business improves the quality of life of all households of Gujarat with better products and services. Fourth, Reliance will make Gujarat a pioneer in new materials and the circular economy. As a first step, Reliance is setting up India's first and world-class carbon fiber facility at Hazira. And finally, fifth, Prime Minister Modi ji has announced that India will bid for 2036 Olympics. In preparation for that, Reliance and Reliance Foundation will join forces with several other partners in Gujarat to improve education, sports, and skills infrastructure that will nurture the champions of tomorrow in various Olympic sports. Most respected Prime Minister Narendra Bhai Modi ji, before I conclude, permit me to articulate a conviction that resides in the heart of everyone in this hall and most Indians. As Chief Minister of Gujarat, you used to say, Bharat ke vikas ke liye Gujarat ka vikas. And that is how you made Gujarat India's growth engine. Now, as Prime Minister of India, your mission is Dunya ke vikas ke liye Bharat ka vikas. You are working on the mantra of global good and make India the world's growth engine. The story of your journey from Gujarat to the global stage in just 2 decades is nothing short of a modern epic. Today, and in today's India, is the best time for young people to enter the economy, to innovate, and to provide ease of living and ease of earning to hundreds of millions of people. The coming generations will indeed be thankful to Prime Minister Modi for being both a nationalist and an internationalist. You have laid a solid foundation for Viksit Bharat, India as a fully developed nation in Amrit Kal. No power on earth can stop India from becoming a $35 trillion economy by 2047. And as I see, Gujarat alone will become a $3 $3 trillion economy. Therefore, I am confident, every Gujarati is confident, and every Indian is confident that the Modi era will take India to new summits of prosperity, progress, and glory. Thank you very much, sir. Jai Gujarat, Jai Jai Garvi Gujarat, Jai Hind.
And that, of course,
Thank
is
you very much,
RIL
sir.
Chairperson Mukesh Ambani speaking at the inaugural session.
$35 trillion economy
$35
by
trillion
2047. Gujarat contributing almost 10%
Absolutely. I
of
mean,
that.
come to think of it, the
$3 trillion.
headline numbers that he shared, that he talked about, contributing nearly half to Gujarat's renewable energy transition,
By
talked
2030.
about by 2030, massive investments and plans that RIL has for Gujarat, and the fact that RIL will always remain a Gujarati company at its heart. Those, of course, are big headline coming in from that summit.
And I think, with Reliance, it's always thinking big, speaking big, and eventually doing big as well. So it's not just all empty words. And we've seen that Reliance Industries, Mukesh Ambani being one visionary leader who has actually put his money where his mouth is time and again. And he's spoken about it. Look at the 5G rollout in India. Look at the entire telecom revolution that has happened in India thanks to Jio. Look at the expansion that Reliance Retail is doing, not just in Gujarat, across the country. Look at the kind of brands that it is partnering with and getting them back to India, Shein being one of them. So, I think it's very, very clear that, and Mukesh Ambani has said that he's a proud Gujarati. Reliance Industries is primarily a Gujarati company, and he's going to go big on investments in Gujarat. What size of investments, we don't know. I think he hasn't really revealed the numbers yet. But green energy, the green energy transition that India is going to undertake will be led by Reliance Industries, and Gujarat is going to be 50% Reliance-driven, green energy compliant by 2030. These are big words coming right now from the summit.
And suggesting that Gujarat and its growth story will be driven by Reliance. Reliance will continue to significantly invest in Gujarat. Sanjay Malhotra is also speaking. Now, Micron's investment in Gujarat are also
semiconductors, I think, very, very central to India's Atmanirbhar dreams, very central to the electronics self-reliance that India wants
to actually set shop in India and in Gujarat.
In Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US in July 2023, one of the first companies, first entrepreneurs that he met was Sanjay Malhotra, along with Allied Industries, along with Tesla, Elon Musk and many others. And this is one company which did not just again make empty promises. In fact, immediately availed the PLI facility of the government, where the government put in $1 for every dollar that came in from Micron, and has broken ground already. So let's see what he has to say today.
The central government and the state government, all that have been involved in making this investment possible. We have begun phased construction and proud to partner with Tata projects to build this world-class facility. In fact, I visited this facility just yesterday, and the construction is coming along very nicely. The first phase, 500,000 square feet of planned clean room space, will be operational by early 2025. Hiring has already begun, and we estimate that this project will create 5,000 new direct jobs for Micron here in Sanand, Gujarat, and will also create an additional 15,000 community jobs over the coming years. The combined investment by Micron and the government over the course of both phases could reach up to $2.75 billion US. Government support will help fund the project and facilitate access to essential semiconductor infrastructure and resources, which will drive innovation and enhance local talent development. We see our investment helping initiate a cluster of semiconductor investment, building momentum that will benefit India's manufacturing goals. We are hopeful that our investment will help catalyze other investments in the sector, strengthen India's manufacturing capability, drive innovation, and support broader job creation. In fact, I'm pleased that my good friend Jeffrey Chan, who's going to be speaking here soon, of Simtech, is considering bringing his substrate manufacturing capabilities here to Gujarat in support of Micron's plant here. This is an example of the ecosystem, the cluster that Micron is capable of generating as an anchor semiconductor company here in Gujarat, here in India. We are proud to partner with India to bring advanced semiconductor memory assembly and a greater technology manufacturing ecosystem to Gujarat. Together, we are building the future of technology manufacturing, not just for Micron, not just for Gujarat, not just for India, but for the world. Thank you.
Sanjay Malhotra promising that mega Micron plant will be completed by 2025. He said that he visited the plant yesterday. Progress is being made at a very fast clip. And the entire semicon ecosystem that Micron will bring to India will generate over 50,000 jobs.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I think one of those fast-track deals where the MOU was signed in July and the investment was made.
Within the 6 months.
And within 6 months, ground was broken. And a year or so from then, production is actually going to start. And this is going to be, of course, one of the key levers of India's self-reliance when it comes to semiconductors. Okay. The dependence on China, dependence on Taiwan to reduce. And hopefully we'll have self-reliance in electronics as a whole.
All right, and then the man of the moment, Gautam Adani, speaking there at the inaugural session.
His Excellency, Governor of Gujarat, Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Bhupendra Bhai Patel, distinguished ministers, captains of industries, and my dear friends. Good morning. It is a privilege to address the 10th Vibrant Gujarat Summit. I take immense pride in having been a part of every one of these summits. Honorable Prime Minister, Vibrant Gujarat is a stunning manifestation of your extraordinary vision. It has all your hallmark signatures, merging grand ambition, massive scale, meticulous governance, and a flawless executions. It ignited a nationwide movement as all our states march forward, competing and cooperating to fundamentally remodel India's industrial landscape. The statistics of the past decade are remarkable. Since 2014, India's GDP has grown by 185% and per capita income by a stunning 165%. This achievement is unparalleled, especially considering this decade's geopolitical conflicts and pandemic challenges. Honorable Prime Minister, your achievements on the international stage are equally remarkable. You have taken us from a country seeking a voice on a global platforms to a nation that now creates the global platforms. The Solar Alliance platform, an initiative you conceptualized, and your leadership at the G20 platform set a benchmark for a more inclusive world order. Adding the Global South to the G20 is a defining moment in our modern history. Honorable Prime Minister, you don't just predict the future, you shape it. You have reoriented India to become the world's fastest growing nation and position her as the global social champion driven by the two philosophies of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and a Vishwaguru. And the best is yet to come. With your foresight in harnessing India's youth to build a Viksit Bharat and make India a fully developed nation by 2047, you have ensured that the India of today is poised to shape the global future of tomorrow. Honorable Chief Minister, at the previous summit, I announced our investment of over rupees 55,000 crores by 2025. We have already surpassed rupees 50,000 crore across the various sectors I had promised, and have vastly exceeded our target of 25,000 direct and indirect jobs. Today, I commit to further investments. We are constructing the world's largest green energy park in Khavda district, Kutch, generating 30 gigawatt of our renewable energy over 725 square kilometer. Even visible is from space. We are expanding the green supply chain for an Atmanirbhar Bharat and creating the largest integrated renewable energy ecosystems. This includes solar panels, wind turbines, hydrogen electrolyzers, green ammonia, PVC, and expansion in copper and cement projects. Over the next 5 years, the Adani Group will invest over rupees 2 lakhs crore in Gujarat, thereby creating over 100,000 direct and indirect jobs. I am grateful for your support. It is my commitment that I will do my part to contribute to a Viksit Gujarat. Thank you. Jai Jai Garvi Gujarat. Jai Hind.
Adani Group to invest nearly 2 lakh crore rupees in Gujarat over the next 2 years. That is the headline coming in as far as Gautam Adani is concerned. The man who literally brought Gujarat to the world when it comes to not only building one of the biggest conglomerates, but also has been on a fast acquisition clip over the last many years. He's gotten relief from the Supreme Court. We've seen him after a very long time, and he's very bullish on India's growth story.
2 lakh crore rupees, 2 trillion rupees is the investment that the Adani Group is going to make over the next 2 years, and 1 lakh jobs to be created, direct and indirect jobs. Now, of course, I think it's important to note both in the case of Mukesh Ambani and Gautam Adani, the flavor of investment right now seems to be renewable energy, green energy, and we are talking about, of course, the district of Kutch in this case, and we are talking about Jamnagar in the case of Mukesh Ambani. But Gautam Adani is saying that the district of Kutch is going to be actually transformed in with solar panels and with renewable energy, and contributing to as much as 30 gigawatts of power. Now, that is, if you look at India's total current installed capacity of power generation across all sources, is just about 500 gigawatts or so. And 30 out of that is going to be renewable from the new plant being set up by Gautam Adani. So, obviously, India's overall renewable energy mission, India's renewable energy carbon net zero by 2070, all of these are in the making, and we can see top voices from across corporate India pledging their support to make India carbon neutral, and one investment at a time, one plant at a time, one solar panel at a time, all of that is coming together.
And if you are to club some of these major announcements so far that we've heard, Kartik, what according to you will be the themes that will drive FDI that will come in, or MOUs that will be signed at the global event in the course of next 2 to 3 days? My assumption is, and understanding from what I've heard, is that semiconductor, renewable energy, those two would be the key focus areas.
So, I think when you talk about FDI particularly and MOU signed with international players, we are definitely talking about energy, and that is visible with the MOU that we've signed with the UAE as well. So, renewable energy and semiconductors no doubt are going to be FDI MOUs being signed, but there is also going to be sizable domestic investment in the renewable energy space. In the semiconductor space, I'm not sure. I would love to wait and watch what Anil Agarwal of Vedanta, who's also in attendance, would like to speak on today, and maybe there is some pledging of semiconductors, because we know the Foxconn deal with Vedanta did not really go through. So let's see if there is some announcement on semiconductors that comes from Vedanta's table. But semiconductors, 100%, we are looking at foreign players coming in. I think the other themes where foreign capital would come into India is going to be the defense sector. So India is very, very bullish on making the defense sector self-reliant and India making its own defense equipment here within the shores of India. So defense is definitely going to be one sector. And auto, Gujarat has been known for the auto industry, and in fact some of Maruti's biggest plants and Tata Motors' biggest plants operate from Gujarat. If you remember back in the day when the Tata Nano was to be launched in Singur in West Bengal, it was pretty much almost overnight that the decision was taken to move the entire factory lock, stock, barrel from the troubled farmer protests in West Bengal with an open offer from Narendra Modi, back then the chief minister, to Ratan Tata, then the chairman of Tata Motors, to move the factory lock, stock, barrel to Gujarat. And it has been there, it has been operating there. So I think the focus within the auto sector also, to my mind, is going to be electric mobility. And I would love to hear some investments in either lithium ion processing or sodium ion processing, or the semiconductors chips that go specifically into electric vehicles. I would really eagerly watch out for those announcements coming today.
And with Gujarat contributing to the largest exports of automobile from India, some announcements likely there. But you know, let's spend a minute to try and understand why this event, Vibrant Gujarat Summit, is of global significance. Kartik, we've dwelled deeper on what is to be expected, but this has been literally where it all started from. This has been the starting point of any summit, any investor summit that India embarked on in the last 20 years. 2003 is when global Gujarat Investment Summit started, when Narendra Modi, the then Chief Minister, decided to not just bring India to the world, but actually bring world to India. Businesses were for the very first time coming to India to pledge investment in a very small state, may not have been that significant back then. Today is of extreme global significance, but I think it all kick-started with that, and that global template, it has become bigger now. Bigger, in fact, as some would say, Gujarat Investor Summit, bigger than what we would have on a national level for that matter. So I think this was a template on which all sorts of investors summit that have recently concluded in Tamil Nadu, in UP, in Uttarakhand are all starting out on.
Very true. I think, in 2003 we were talking about a very different era where Prime Minister Modi, then Chief Minister, also needed a complete image makeover to be seen as a pro-corporate, extremely right when it comes to investments coming into his state. And that is something that we saw was the need of the hour for the then Chief Minister, now Prime Minister, back in 2003. Now, investment summits across the world have happened, and you're right, this was pretty much the first investment summit being held in India, being organized by a state, and it has been as successful as it gets. Remember, in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, about 25,000 MOUs were signed. In 2017, we had about 27,000 MOUs signed. So the number of MOUs and the quantum of investment which is pledged at these summits is obviously growing year on year. Not just Vibrant Gujarat, but even the Tamil Nadu State Investment Summit, the Jharkhand State Investment Summit, Punjab Investment Summit, UP Investment Summit. All these summits sign a lot of MOUs. I think what differentiates Gujarat from most of those is that a lot of these MOUs actually translate to real business. In fact, in 2017, the example I was giving of 27,000 MOUs, as many as 70% of those did materialize into actual production within the state of Gujarat. So this conversion rate is absolutely tremendous in Gujarat, and you've got to give it to the Gujarati people, you've got to give it to the community, the fraternity, which has been industrious, which has been entrepreneurial forever. I mean, it's not just 2003 where Gujarat turned an entrepreneurial state. It has been an entrepreneurial state all along.
All right, N. Chandra is speaking at the moment. Let's also quickly listen into what he's saying before we dip into a break.
And all our retail companies and Air India and many other companies. The group employs over 50,000 people in the state of Gujarat. Recently, we have made significant commitments to expand our presence in the state of Gujarat. Sanand is becoming home for all our electric vehicles technology. We expanded the footprint in Sanand with additional capacity so that we can meet the growing demands of the electric vehicles. We concluded and are about to launch the building of a huge gigafactory
for 20 gigawatts of lithium-ion batteries in Sanand. The project should start construction in the next couple of months. Then we also are building the C-295 defense aircrafts, initially in Vadodara and then in Dholera, and that work is going on full swing. The Tata Group has also made a commitment and is on the verge of concluding and announcing a huge semiconductor fab in Dholera. And we are about to complete these negotiations and start in 2024. In addition to that, the Tata Group is also building, in partnership with the Government of India and Gujarat government, an Indian Institute of Skills Institute, which will be constructed over 3.2 lakh square feet and should be fully operational and will train more than 25,000 professionals every year, primarily in advanced manufacturing, electric vehicles, advanced electronics, and then hospitality. And the project's first phase will be launched in March 2024. In all, we see Gujarat as a very, very important destination, not only for business growth, but for the future advanced technology industries that India is looking to grow at. With all this, Gujarat is one of the most important destinations for the Tata Group, and we hope to play a very important role in the future of the economic development of this state. Thank you once again, Honorable Chief Minister, for inviting me, and thank you, Prime Minister, for your leadership.
And Chandrasekharan of the Tata Group making some mega announcements. I think two key announcements. One by the way of a semicon fab that will be breaking ground. He's saying the preparations are in full swing, and some thrust towards electric mobility as well from Tata Group.
I think 20 gigawatts of electric batteries. The lithium-ion batteries are going to be, that plant is going to be put up in Gujarat, in Sanand, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, I think what we were talking about just ahead of N. Chandra's speech is coming to fruition. We are talking about a thrust on auto sector. We are talking about electric vehicles in particular. And within that, we are talking about domestic production of lithium-ion batteries.
And the domestic investments also starting to pour in as far as Tata Group is concerned. We'll keep bringing all those details for you on News9 after this very short break.
This was intended to be a terrorist spectacular without precedent.
The plan was to bomb two Air India passenger aircrafts simultaneously.
There was a loud explosion and the whole plane just vanished.
The police dropped the ball, the intelligence officers dropped the ball, and the politicians dropped the ball.
It was a conspiracy that destroyed my life. It destroyed 331 lives.
News is now content. Just stream it. Download the world's first news OTT, News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
वर्ष 2070 तक भारत नेट जीरो का लक्ष्य हासिल करेगा.
There is certainly a wall of capital coming into the clean tech, climate tech space, not just in India but across the world.
This and more, streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Welcome back. You're watching Business Plus. We're getting you rolling and continuing coverage of the Vibrant Gujarat Global Investors Summit that kick-started this morning at about 9:45 a.m. With Prime Minister Modi in attendance, global leaders, Indian CEOs have all congregated. They are speaking one after the other. I think some certain themes now emerging very, very clearly, categorically. Kartik with me in the studio. Kartik, as we discussed, EVs, renewable energy and investments, both domestic as well as international, would continue coming into Gujarat. Of the leaders who have spoken so far, let's spend 2 minutes to sum up, some of the biggest conglomerates in the country, from Reliance to Adani to Tata Sons, will continue to focus on, building a cleaner fuel, greener energy, and will contribute by the way of investments in Gujarat to perhaps energy transition for India specifically.
Right. So what are the headlines that are emerging thus far, Shweta? I think number one, definitely, I think the biggest headline right now is 2 lakh crore rupees to be invested by Gautam Adani, by the Adani Group. And a lot of this investment, a good chunk of this, is actually going to go into the district of Kutch to build 30 gigawatts of renewable energy, largely driven by solar. This initiative,
and he's promising that this is going to be the biggest solar energy plant in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this initiative alone is likely to generate about 100,000 jobs, direct and indirect put together. Cut to what Mukesh Ambani is saying. Mukesh Ambani is saying that 50% of Gujarat's total renewable energy needs would be fulfilled by Reliance Industries in the state of Gujarat through its own plants, which are likely to come up in the district of Jamnagar by 2030. So by 2030, by when India would have liked to transition completely 100% to clean energy from the thermal energy that we use presently to clean energy by 2030, by then in the state of Gujarat, 50% of all energy requirements would be fulfilled by Reliance Industries. So on the domestic front, clean energy definitely is the focus of investments. N. Chandra of Tata Sons has categorically said, again in the clean energy space, not as much to do with power generation, but the powertrain generation when it comes to automobiles, saying that about 20 gigawatts worth of electric batteries, the lithium-ion batteries, that plant is going to come in Dholera, and that is going to be driven by Tata Motors, in addition to the existing Sanand plant where the Tata electric vehicles are produced. So in addition to the electric vehicles, the battery manufacturing, the lithium-ion battery manufacturing
and
is also going to happen. And then, of course, you have the semicon fab, which Tata has also ventured into, promised, and Sanjay Malhotra of Micron, who is saying that by the year 2025, that semiconductor plant on which the ground was broken last year after the July meeting between Prime Minister Modi on his visit to US and Sanjay Malhotra, that plant is going to be operational by 2025, and that is going to directly and indirectly create about 50,000 jobs. So definitely semiconductors, electric mobility, electric batteries, and the biggest renewable energy, that seems to be the focus so far. I think what I'm really waiting now to really the headlines to emerge from are going to be A. Anil Agarwal of Vedanta, his semiconductor plants in the state of Gujarat, and B. the defense deals that India definitely most urgently wants to do.
Absolutely. And when we talk about renewable energy, seems like the flavor of the season, because India not just is promising, and the world leaders not just promising to set shop in India, as well as domestic players promising that they will be helping Gujarat and in turn helping India realize its renewable energy potential. But remember, India UAE also signed 4 MOUs as of last evening. The president of UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, is here in India. He is the chief guest of the 10th edition of the Vibrant Gujarat Summit. And the 4 MOUs that were signed, one of the MOUs will also be about renewable energy. Others would be about food park as well as logistics. Those are the areas in which we'll be partnering with the
UAE. And India and UAE are at that critical juncture right now where we need each other for our own respective growth arenas. And UAE becomes the central conduit for India's trade with Europe, India's trade with the US. And in the context of the IMEC, the India Middle East Economic Corridor, which was announced on the sidelines of India's G20 presidency in the month of September, UAE becomes the absolute first port of call, literally, because from Mumbai, the shipping lines are going to run straight into Dubai. And UAE is also part of the I2U2 cooperation, which is India, Israel, UAE and USA. So this trade bloc will need India and UAE to have their ties absolutely strengthened. And that is coming in by way of these bilaterals that are getting executed and the MOUs which are getting signed. Now, specifically, you mentioned renewable energy. Yes, renewable energy is also a critical feature of the IMEC. And the IMEC is not just going to be a trade corridor, it is also going to be a communication corridor and an energy corridor. So that becomes further more relevant for India at this juncture. You spoke about logistics, and incidentally, the MOU which has been signed on the logistics front is also for the, that of course is the second headline emerging from that very, very important bilateral that took place yesterday ahead of the formal launch of the Vibrant Gujarat Summit.
All right, and while we are at it, visuals continue to pour in. Let's quickly listen in to what's happening at the inaugural summit.
We are partnering with all of India's leading business groups, the Tatas, Reliance Group, and many others, to set up state-of-the-art AI data center facilities and provision them here in India. Specifically today, I'm very happy to inform you that our partner Yota is setting up a state-of-the-art AI data center here in Gift City, and it will be available and go live before the end of March. Thank you, sir. And thirdly, we are very strong supporters of Make in India. Make in India for India and Make in India for the world. Our partners such as NetWeb and others, Eviden, Atos, are actually already making state-of-the-art AI hardware for consumption here in India and elsewhere in the world. And we are working strongly with partners both in the upstream semiconductor and ecosystems such as Sanjay and his company at Micron and other semiconductor ecosystem partners, as well as downstream partners such as our system OEMs, our ODMs, our contract manufacturers, and other data center providers to establish a very strong AI electronics ecosystem in India, which can service not just here in India and Gujarat, but also the global economy. Thank you again, sir, and it's a pleasure and privilege to be here. Jai Hind, Jai Garvi Gujarat, and of course, God bless America too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Shankar Trivedi of NVIDIA, Semicon continues to be one of the focus areas, and he is of course congratulating his counterpart Micron, which has broken grounds in India. And we were talking about that story, we couldn't complete, because that is also a story of success, and perhaps that of brand Modi, come to think of it. Within 6 months of Prime Minister going to the US and some deals brokering on what could potentially be India's first Semicon fab, 6 months later, here comes Micron, starts breaking the grounds, and they're saying that the semiconductors coming out of Micron plant could be ready by the end of this year.
And I think the critical difference, Shweta, between a raw semicon fab, the kind that Micron is going to build in India, and the output that comes from there, and what NVIDIA is doing is actually quite large.
Absolutely.
So NVIDIA is actually making those final chips that go into AI circuitry. And the data, the large, vast data of AI gets crunched on the basis of these NVIDIA chips. And remember the fight which is on right now, the chip war literally between US and China at the moment, where the key flashpoint happens to be this company NVIDIA. And the US government has banned NVIDIA and its counterparts from exporting chips to China, so that China would not win the AI race. And here you have NVIDIA, an Indian origin CEO of the company, speaking in Gujarat today, saying that it is really seriously looking at India and looking at the chips, and not just the raw material called the semiconductor fab, but the real chips, the circuitry on which AI is going to be built and AI is going to be driven, will be made here in India. And he is bullish on making in India for India, making in India for the world.
Making in India for the world, I think that's the message coming in. And more speakers there at the inaugural session. Let's quickly listen in to what they're saying.
The opportunities the country threw to a 17-year-old boy, again with no education, no capital, or exceptionally smart, this in my view, has not happened forever. The last 10 years have been incredible, and I'm not the only exception here in India. There are many other exceptions like me. We all hang out. We call this the startup ecosystem of India. The big change in India from the last decade, in my opinion, also has been that entrepreneurship has moved from something that we have all watched around us, heard in movies, or thought could happen, something that we aspire to entrepreneurship today, which is something that we all are actively trying. You could take an example of this being a housewife watching Shark Tank, a small-time shoe salesman selling online on Flipkart. These are not stories that existed 10 years ago. To that one man in the audience here today, who in my opinion has facilitated this stable ecosystem for people like me to thrive, and millions of other who we call the youth of India to thrive, I would like to say thank you, Modi ji, for having created this ecosystem for all of us. Growing up, I used to talk to people, that one relative in my family who went abroad, studied and did very well. Traveling to the West seemed to be the best thing that could happen to anybody. Today, when I talk to Indians in the West who have done very well, the only thing I hear from them, it's a very young word, I call it FOMO, the fear of missing out. They're talking about India as the story that they fear missing out today. That change which has happened in the last 10 years is so evident to see that it makes me feel proud, it makes me feel like I'm in the right place at the right time, and that place today is India. I often ask people, if their life was a book, what would they call the current chapter? It's a good question for all of us to ask ourselves. When I look at India and I ask myself, what would be this chapter in the book of India? The first word that came up in my mind was arrived. And finally, as I stand here in a room full of politicians, diplomats, dignitaries, mentors, I don't look upon this ecosystem as potential, as the way I'm looking at this today is we're all potential partners in a story that could change the global economic landscape today, and that story is India. And to all the foreign investors here, India is seemingly looking like the coolest party in town. I think what you need to be aware of is if you arrive too late, you might not get in. So I'd like to thank everybody, thank Modi ji for this opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, sir. Today we have with us dignitaries from
That is Nikhil Kamath of Zerodha speaking about strides India has made, talking about bringing India to the world and bringing world to India. That has been, of course, one of the key reasons as to why, and perhaps one of the key understandings as to why a Gujarat summit-like event actually began with. Talking about building a financial ecosystem, I think it started with Paytm yesterday, pledging about 100 crore rupees in the gift city, and Zerodha also promising that the financial inclusion and the story of building a financial ecosystem within India by domestic players will continue to build on, and they will continue to thrive, especially in the state of Gujarat.
So I think the larger message that Nikhil Kamath is trying to make here is about the vibrant vibrant startup ecosystem, not limited to the financial services industry alone. And no doubt Zerodha, which has only recently been overtaken by Grow, which is another India-built unicorn startup in the fintech space, has actually...
In terms of the users, number of users.
In terms of the number of users, but until Grow overtook Zerodha just a few months back, Zerodha had actually given the likes of Motilal Oswal, etc., a run for their money by becoming the largest broker in India, all done using the digital ecosystem available, using the capital that was flowing into Indian startups, and building a business which has been profitable from day one. And incidentally, Zerodha is one company which, according to reports and according to podcasts, etc., released by the Zerodha founders themselves, they have never spent a single rupee on acquiring customers. So they haven't spent money on marketing, burning investors' money to get customers. So I think that is a clear departure from how startups in India thus far have operated. Now, you spoke about Paytm. Paytm also obviously making investments in Gift City right now at a time when its own business model of making these small unsecured loans is coming under some sort of threat with the RBI tightening the noose over these unsecured loans. But the larger point I think that Nikhil Kamath was trying to make was that thanks to this flourishing entrepreneurial ecosystem and the products and services being launched by startups, the envy of the world today is perhaps India, because you don't get those services internationally. I was visiting Singapore recently. Last year I was visiting Hong Kong and London before that. And my cousins who live in the US, I'm talking about all developed economies out there, all developed markets out there. They don't have your hot food getting delivered to you in 15 minutes, 30 minutes time. They don't have quick commerce delivering your essentials in 9 minutes, 10 minutes flat. They don't have the kind of fintech platforms available, UPI of course being the stellar success story that India has. I mean, you've got UPI-like services, but those are again linked to the big tech of Apple Pay and Google Pay. You don't really have an India stack alike, and that is an opportunity that India is looking at exporting to other countries, including Singapore, including UAE, which have both incidentally signed MOUs with India. Singapore investing 27,000 crore rupees, UAE and India, we don't know the quantum of the investment, but signing those bilateral MOUs. So I think India is definitely a great place to be in right now, given this entire startup ecosystem which is providing the convenience which is absent from the developed world.
All right, so Startup India and the strides that Indian startups have taken, of course being mentioned there by Nikhil Kamath. But remember, a slew of Indian CEOs, Indian investors as well as entrepreneurs are going to be at the event that is seeing participation from at least 36 countries currently ongoing. As you can see on your screens, the inaugural session of the Vibrant Gujarat Summit has not concluded just as yet, and this is just the start. Some investments have been pledged, others will be over the course of next 2 days. But before we wrap up, let's quickly listen into fresh speakers who are currently addressing the summit, the inaugural summit at Vibrant Gujarat.
Manufacturing industry ecosystem centered on the 4- and 2-wheeled vehicle sectors have been intensively built there. In order to further accelerate the Make in India initiative, Japan will further tackle the improvement of the investment environment through support for Japanese industrial parks. Gujarat currently hosts 6 Japanese-style manufacturing schools where we develop human resources to work on the manufacturing front lines. We intend to continue lending our cooperation in this field going forward. Initiatives by Japanese corporations are also extremely active. To give an example, Suzuki has already produced 750,000 vehicles at its Gujarat-based factory that it sells all over the world, not just in India. Moreover, the company has also adopted a plan to export electric vehicles produced in Gujarat to Japan and Europe in 2025 and beyond. I feel deep gratitude towards the Indian Gujarat government for their cooperation for so long. Last July, we announced the Japan-India Industrial Co-Creation Initiative in order to go beyond cooperation in the automotive industry and other existing industry domains to create industries in the name of further developing relations between our respective nations as we move forward. In the semiconductor, hydrogen green, and digital domains in particular, METE is carrying out preparation to proactively assist with business development in India. For cooperation surrounding semiconductors, in July 2023, we executed the Japan-India Semiconductor Supply Chain Partnership and launched a policy dialogue. Last November, we promptly held our first meeting of that partnership, which had over 100 individuals representing Japanese semiconductor-related enterprises in attendance. This time, as well, we carefully selected some semiconductor corporations with considerable potential to contribute to India and asked them to accompany us here. We hope to go beyond contribution to the establishment of semiconductor ecosystem in India in the form of developing semiconductor manufacturing environment, improving the logistic environment, and developing semiconductor human capital. For the hydrogen domains as well, we are providing support for attracting Japanese.
Pakistani spy agency ISI's sinister plan to target India. Training women to honey trap top civil and military officials. Counter honey trapping ops initiated by India. But gullible victims still caught in the web.